Hopefully not. Interesting.
I rode home once from the River Cats.
Yeah.
What?
I was so thrilled.
I'm a
With
closet Dodger fan too. It doesn't bother me.
so,
Did you grow up in LA?
Vernon Nelson,
Oh, okay.
Oceans. Yeah, I don't Nobody else wanted to go.
Football's nice to watch on TV. Help you follow along.
I don't have to follow. I don't know hockey. Friend that those are pros huddle out. So really great.
Yes. All right.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Calling the April 16th board meeting of the Reclamation District 900. We have a quorum, and we have 2 absent trustees who will not be able to attend tonight. It is spring break, so chance to take a break. And general administration, first let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. General Manager, please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge.
Flag of the United States. And to the republic. One nation. Indivisible.
Liberty and justice.
Thank you. So General Administration Part 1, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the district. The agency is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought up to them at this time. Mr. General Manager, do we have any? None? Okay.
No one from the public.
Next is monthly year-to-date revenue and expenses, item 1B. And Mr. General Manager, do you have a presentation on that?
So revenue to date, 3.9 million. Expenditures to date is 1.3 million. So total, we're about 56% spent of the budget as of February 2025. Of course, our fiscal year ends end of June, so we're on track at this point. In our treasury through Yolo County, we still have 12.9 million in the bank as of February.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions among the trustees? All right, move on next to consent agenda part 2. I'll request a motion, or if you'd like to pull an item. All right, trustee Sapizio Hall moved, and trustee Alcala seconded. Mr. Who's calling the roll?
Alcala.
Aye.
Okay.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
Trustee Sapizio Hall.
Aye.
President Guerrero.
Aye. All right, this is a consent agenda is approved. And next is our regular agenda, Part 3, consideration of adopting the updated Reclamation District 900 Employee Handbook. Mr. General Manager?
Sure. So because we're in California, the employee laws change yearly here in California. So we went back through our handbook and updated it based on some new laws, some items. I've listed some of the highlights, and I'll go through those real quick. I think originally the handbook said we'd look at it every 2 years. We're going to review it every year because of law changes quite frequently. Updated quite a few of the equal employment opportunity statements throughout the document. We also included a revised and included a standby and storm operations pay. We've asked staff over several winters to come in, work at night, different shifts, and also standby. We think a storm's coming through. This year was a really odd year. Predicted rain, no rain. So we had staff on standby, and so we feel that we need to pay them for that standby time so that the next storm, they will volunteer and be ready to go. So we've included that pay for standby. I believe we set it at $16.50 an hour. And then in the discussion is 1.25 times their normal pay up to 2 times their normal pay, which is the law that we're following in the handbook. So just wanted to make it clear to the staff as to what they're eligible for if they volunteer. Let's see. We also have changed our timekeeping policies to an electronic timekeeping, so staff all use their cell phones for that. So before, I think it stated hard copies. Some additional language regarding sick leave for violent crime victims and being allowed to use sick leave. Same thing with reproductive loss leave, what's allowed with that. Let's see. The last one, the differences between state and federal with the use of marijuana. So the district, of course, does not allow the use of marijuana, especially on working hours. And several of our staff do have their Class A driver's license, truck driver's license, and I believe any drugs found in their system, they lose their license permanently. So just making it clear to the staff what the requirements are. So with that, if there's any questions on the handbook.
Question?
Go ahead, trustee Sophia.
Thank you. I appreciate the addition of reproductive loss leave. I do notice that it's unpaid. Was there any conversation about adding it to our bereavement policy so that it could be included as paid leave? And I asked that because we went through the same process with the city and it's included in our paid leave program.
I think we could definitely include it. I think by law, we just have to allow the leave without pay, but the district could allow sick leave or some sort of payment if we so choose to. So
I'd love to see paid leave under the bereavement policy for reproductive loss leave.
Okay, we can
reproductive loss leave.
we can add that to that if everybody agrees.
Sure. Agree. Are you done with your presentation? The general manager.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, any other questions among the trustees? No, with that, and we will need to approve this, I think, report, present, adopt, and then should we make that amendment now, or would you like and then you'll just go ahead and make the change, or do you want to come back with the amendment?
I think we could make the change and just include it in this approval.
That's fine.
Ralph, do you have?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve with the change of adding reproductive loss leave under the paid bereavement.
All right, with that, Mr. General Manager, we have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Trustee Alcala?
Aye.
Trustee Sulpicio Hall?
Aye.
President Guerrero?
Aye. Right, this is approved. Next is item 5, consideration to approve the Reclamation District 900 California, a blended component unit of the City of West Sacramento, financial statements and supplementary information with independent auditors' reports thereon for the years ended June 30th, 2024 and 2023. Mr. General Manager.
So that's a long subject for, this is our yearly audit.
Okay.
We've got James Butera on Teams right now, and I invited him to give his statement on the audit and any comments he has regarding the effort. The LSL is new to us. LSL has done the city's audit. I think this was their second year with the city, and so learning process for both teams, but it all went well in my opinion. And with that said, James, you're on.
resource to you guys and to the city as best we can. So definitely appreciate the flexibility to present this remotely. And we'll get into it. So just to kind of touch on the scope here of what we did for fiscal year 24. So we've been engaged by the city of West Sacramento to do their fiscal year audits on a 5-year basis. So as Blake mentioned, this was year 2 of us working with the city, and just in an attempt to kind of combine some resources and hopefully gain some efficiencies in the coming years. It was kind of recommended to sort of join forces and kind of do both at the same time. So what we did for the Reclamation District is we do our audit under generally accepted auditing standards, which is one of the reports in the statements you have. And then we also perform our audit under government auditing standards, which is the internal control and compliance. So no change there from any of the prior year audits that the district would have. Pretty standard, regulation and requirements from our end. So the approach that we take and that we took is pretty much throughout January, we kind of combined an interim and a year-end field work that we typically perform. So moving forward for fiscal year 25, we're going to sort of align a little bit more with the city schedule. But for this first year, we sort of combined everything into sort of one time period. So how we typically kind of do a typical engagement will be that we'll set up an interim field work where we sort of do some of that government auditing standards work. We'll kind of walk through some internal controls and provide any sort of informal recommendations on some of that. And then based on those internal controls and kind of the walkthrough and evaluation of that, we'll do kind of an internal risk assessment and get a game plan for the year-end audit. And what the year-end audit is more the meat and potatoes. It's sort of, looking at all the numbers and the trial balances, detailed testing those balances, and ultimately, performing sampling over those numbers to render an official audit opinion. So the main opinion letter towards the front of the financial statements is the audit report. So definitely happy to report an unmodified auditor's opinion, which is essentially a clean opinion. What that means is any user of the financial statements can feel comfortable over reading the information and kind of know that there's no material misstatements in any of those balances. We don't test every dollar, but we do perform sampling over various transactions, and that kind of allows us to render that opinion. That second report is the internal control and compliance report, and that goes hand in hand with those government auditing standards. So what we do there is, if we come across any sort of significant deficiencies or material weaknesses regarding internal controls, whether there's any findings related to the financial statement audit, could be material audit correcting entries or any other sort of corrections that we come across, it would be included in this report. So for this year, for fiscal year 2024, we noted no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We noted no non-compliance with laws, regulations, grants, etc. So really just overall, just shows a clean audit opinion. And really, the best news that, that we could give. So that second, there's a internal letter called, it's a SAS 114 letter as well. It's also, kind of commonly known as an audit communication letter. It's a required communication between our firm and any members of governance. And some of the highlights within that letter outlines whether there were any difficulties conducting our audit, which there were none. In that letter, we noted that there were no disagreements with management about any sort of accounting principles. And we did just want to kind of bring to your attention and kind of put on the radar for fiscal year 2025 coming up. GASB 101 is a new requirement to be implemented, and it has to do with compensated absences, and there could be some changes in the way that those liabilities have to be calculated. Our firm's happy to, kind of walk through and provide guidance on how to kind of evaluate that information. There are also some tools on the GFOA website and GASB website that they put out to kind of help that as well, that, we'll definitely provide to the finance department. I just kind of wanted to put that on your radar. So also in that letter, there's some other kind of highlights is, we determined that all estimates used by management are reasonable, and, that we identified no fraud, waste, or abuse for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. So kind of with the statements themselves, just some, overall highlights. So with any governmental financial statement, you'll have a full accrual or government-wide statement of net position and statement of activities. And then you also have a fund level modified accrual statement, which kind of comes after those first government-wide that statement of net position. So internally, the district maintains their accounting on the full accrual. And when we kind of assist with some of the financial statement preparation, we convert some of that long-term activity and kind of present that modified accrual information as well. So for the government-wide, the net position is very strong. There was an increase of 1.4 million to about 28.5 million total. So if you look at that statement in that position, about half of that is related to capital assets, and the other half, or about 49% of it or so, is for operations and other activities. District does not have much long-term debt at all. It's really just the OPEB liability, which is a very small amount, and then you have compensated absences as well for employees for PTO and any sort of policies that are offered there. There's no bonds or debt, which is great. So, overall on that full accrual government-wide basis, definitely healthy operations. And then if you flip a couple pages to that modified accrual fund level, it's kind of similar to the government-wide, just because there's not a ton of differences there. So any sort of long-term activity will be at the full accrual. So that would be for the district, it's the capital assets, the OPEB liability, and the compensated absences. So the fund level takes those components out and just shows more of the current economic resources basis. So on that statement, the fund balance increased about 1.6 million to 13.7 approximately total. And as I mentioned, just the biggest change there is that it kind of removes those long-term activity. And you may notice one change on that statement. It shows up as unavailable revenue as a deferred inflows of resources. So what that is accounts receivable. So money that is owed to the district from, could be from any source really, could be grant related, could be, assessment related. But it's money that's not going to be received or hasn't been received within the modified accrual revenue recognition period. So I think in the past it was more, it's a balance sheet only transaction, but we recorded that way on the modified accrual basis to kind of show a little bit of a tracking in terms of here's receivables outstanding that we do anticipate to be received. So they're not going to be written off, but they are going to be received outside of that revenue recognition window. So no impact to fund balance with that presentation. It was a balance sheet only, but that was one change in the presentation from 23 to 24. And towards the back is your required supplemental information, which is these are required by GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board. So any sort of pension or OPEB related schedules. So for the district, it would be OPEB only. There's a standard schedule presented there. And then any major fund, general fund, or major special revenue fund for, a standard city would have to be presented. So for the district, we show just the fund level budgetary activity. You can see there that, the two biggest variances there is between the capital outlay and the interest earnings. So I think, our firm helps a little bit with sort of putting some of those capital outlay additions together. But since there are no budget, it's not budgeted for that, for those expenditures. You show that large variance there. And then the interest, the market performed more favorably than budgeted. So those two kind of offset each other for about a net of like 40,000 or so difference. So I would just kind of keep in mind that, as the market fluctuates, as we've seen recently, if you follow the stock market at all, it's volatile, to say the least. So, that interest variance could potentially, decrease in the future. So, it could be a situation where looking into budgeting for some of that, capital outlay activity could be in play there. But again, that's just a modified accrual level. So the district actually maintains the QuickBooks on the full accrual level. So that's kind of why you don't see that particular expense there. But all in all, kind of just to summarize here, we appreciate Blake and Aaron and Dustin and all the hard work from their team. First year is always a learning curve, but we're excited to kind of move forward into this next upcoming year together. Get the timing a little bit. We're hoping to issue in December this year, so that's kind of our collective goal. And we're working on scheduling all the field work to make that happen. So just wanted to kind of give kudos to them and their team, and kind of open up the floor for any questions that anyone may have.
Any questions among the trustees? No questions. You did an excellent job providing a thorough explanation of almost every page.
All right, well, try to keep it as quick as possible, but also, informative as well.
Yes, and appreciate, our new working relationship here. And thank you so much for tuning in and giving us that presentation.
Of course.
Right. At this point, we are to approve this audit report.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. General Manager, we got first and a second.
Trustee Alcala?
Aye.
Trustee Sulpicio Holt?
Aye.
President Guerrero?
Aye. All right. Thank you so much for all your hard work, and we'll see you back.
Thanks, James. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you all. Great evening.
All right. Thank you. You too. Next is establish a budget committee for the review of the 2025-2026 budget, and consisting of 2 board members. Any volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, we have 2 members.
2 new members
2
here.
new members. I'll move our 2 new members. All right. Mr. General Manager, we have first and second.
Trustee Alcala?
Aye.
Trustee Sulpicio Holt?
Aye.
President Guerrero?
Aye. All right, this item is approved. We have general manager updates.
I'll go through quickly here. So our grant program is moving forward. Our IT consultant has been on site and already taken control of our systems and helping us keep them straight, making recommendations. So that will be ongoing, I believe, the next 3 years. So they've been very helpful in just this 1 month that they've started. District insurance, our policy renewed April 1st. The rates increased, unfortunately, by 14%. So the premium this year is $137,000. That includes all vehicles, buildings, pump stations. They reevaluated pump stations, and so costs, of course, go up due to a lot of this reevaluation. We also now have cybersecurity insurance. So if we're attacked in any way, it's covered. And it was actually a requirement by our IT consultant. Let's see, moving on to our duckweed pond. We'll be treating that as soon as we can. The chemicals that you treat it with need to sit in the pond for 45 days. Unfortunately, groundwater is still pretty high at this point. We had turned the pumps off here earlier this week, and water has risen by several feet. So we've got to turn pumps back on, so we can't treat until the water stabilizes. So as soon as that does, we will treat the pond. Still waiting for our district engineer to come back with costs for a backup generator for our Causeway pump station and a portable generator for racetrack. And I kind of went through old notes and so on. So other GMs have looked at these generators and backup generators for these pump stations, and nobody's pulled the trigger on it yet. And so as soon as we get the costs, those two pump stations are kind of critical pump stations, and if we lost power, could really cause internal flooding. And so I would highly recommend that we move forward with purchasing and installing generators, again, depending on cost, but that will be one of our big ticket items is the capital improvement program.
What's the range?
We're guessing about $1 million for
Wow.
the permanent generator. And
Not what I expected.
anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million for that one.
Are there any used ones?
I'm sorry.
Are there any used ones?
Yeah.
Check Facebook
Well,
Marketplace.
and again, we're in California, so the regulations really kick in on air quality and so on. So we pay a premium for these generators, and so it just costs us more to have these installed. The pumps are quite large, the motors, so it takes a very large generator to run these pumps. In the Causeway pump station, we have a couple of diesel generators or diesel motors that run the pump. So they run on diesel fuel, so we don't need to power them, but then we have 4 electric pumps, motors that need to run. And if you remember in the October 22 storm event, all pumps were running during that time.
I remember that, yeah.
So it is a significant, there's just not a lot of storage in that particular system, so the pumps need to come on when it rains. So
Maybe
the
we can-
backup generator, the good news with it is we can use it in different locations. So if it's a trailer mounted, we can tow it. And the racetrack pump station is one of our older pump stations, so they're struggling with the electronics in it because there really isn't anything. And so it's just very old, but we can plumb it for a backup generator. So, and that runs, a backup generator runs about $250,000. So it's nothing's cheap, but it meets all California air quality requirements and so on. We do have a backup generator now, trailer mounted, that is obsolete, but they allow us to use it because it's emergency use. Yeah, we pay fees for it through the Air Resource Board, and but we can still use it in an emergency. So it's too small to run this particular pump station, but it will run some of our other smaller pump stations.
Any federal funding we can ask for, grants, things like that?
Interesting you ask that question. Cal OES sent out an emergency meeting last Friday, and the BRIC program, a lot of the funding programs have been put on hold. So unfortunately, Cal OES didn't have any real information to provide us, and it wasn't just RD 900, it was cities and counties, and basically California was on this call. And the administration has shut down a lot of this funding, and some projects are being funded, some aren't. So Cal OES just didn't know, but they wanted to get that out there, let the cities, counties, special districts know that as soon as they find out, they'll pass it on to us. So, yeah, so right now funding's sort of been shut down. There's, issues with FEMA and what the federal government wants to do with FEMA. So everything's kind of up in the air right now. So we don't have any solid answers on a lot of this right now. So not the greatest of news on that at this point, which leads us to Blacker Canal. We submitted all of our updated material to Cal OES, which then submits to FEMA. nobody could give us a time frame as to when that might happen. So that project does need to move forward this summer. We've come up with a new design that's more than adequate, meets the design needs, but is a lot less expensive. And our engineers are finalizing that project now, so they hope to have it to me here in the next week or so, that we could go out to bid on that and see that, again, the district has the money to cover the costs if FEMA decides not to reimburse. But you want FEMA's approval first before you move forward, kind of like what happened last year. We moved forward and then FEMA pulled the plug on us. So if we were to award and start moving forward without FEMA's approval, we may not get reimbursed. So it's a balancing act. So we'll have to, Ralph and I will have to work through the contract language to see how we blend it together, the options.
Okay.
Let's see here. Get the highlights. I'd been mentioning the Army Corps was going to start their levee inspection. Got an email today. They're going to start April 29th, so the end of this month. They're only looking at the cross levees, so the very southern end of the district at this point. Let's see. West Safeco, several of the same projects that we've been talking about. The Yolo Bypass East levee, north and south, are still moving forward. The levee on the north has been completed. They're putting in a new pump station and generator for us. Just parts and pieces are unavailable, so we're just waiting for contractor to be able to acquire the generator. There was a little hiccup with electrical and one of the landowners, but West Safeco is following up with that, and we think we have a solution on that. The design of the repairs right now, where maintenance area 4 maintains the levee, is moving forward. So that's still ongoing. We should be seeing a 60% design here in the near future. Let's see what else. Importance. I think that's primarily it. Coordination with the city. We had our emergency management meeting here less than a month ago, just with the fire department and West Safeco, the district, the county, and just let everybody know where we are. And we had a pretty mild winter, so there wasn't a lot of impacts this winter.
Yes, go ahead.
Just follow up on the district insurance renewal. So, the California Association of Water Companies, Joint Powers, they carry the insurance, or who carries?
I believe they carry the insurance. We go through Interwest, who's the broker of the insurance policy, but they go through, was it J Prima, if I get the initials right, for our insurance. I think there's 2 groups that insure special districts and water, and we've been with this particular insurance group for many years. So.
Do we ever price?
We haven't in a while, so it's probably time to look. I've price checked my own insurance, and every time I do, the others are always a lot higher. So, but yeah, it's probably we need to look at it just to. But 14%, that's actually on the low end of what insurance rates are going up around.
Insurance rates are going up
What would-
everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What would cause
just the
them to
insurance market in general is
Yeah,
just
it's
horrible.
just-
Okay. What would cause the reevaluation, though?
Hmm.
Term.
So the pump stations previously I think they were looked at a little differently, the values of them, or I'm trying to remember, it was a couple of months ago that we had to go and look at the reevaluation of the cost to replace a pump station if it failed. So it's just updated numbers more than anything on the pump stations. And over the years, the cost of a pump and a motor and so on have gone up significantly compared to the numbers they had before. So I think From a pump station perspective, I think we've got $18 million worth of coverage for our pump stations. And normally you wouldn't lose the whole thing. Something would fail, but a whole pump station wouldn't fail. But I think it was about $18 million just for the pump stations. Yeah.
Right. That concludes your manager updates?
Yes, if there's any other
trustee
questions.
comments? No comments? All right. We will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.